Disclaimer: China has developed a new type of weapon. And no, I'm not talking about a new missile or a powerful bomb. Beijing has developed a high-power microwave system. It is designed to target satellites in orbit, not by destroying them with explosives, but by interfering with their electronics from a distance. Put simply, it relies on bursts of directed energy instead of traditional ammunition. Chinese officials and researchers say this technology could shut down satellites without leaving dangerous debris floating in space, a problem that has long plagued conventional anti-satellite weapons. That matters, because space is rapidly turning into a new arena of global competition. Satellites now carry vast quantities of data, communications links, navigation networks, and military sensors. Nations are seriously considering how to protect their space assets, and, if necessary, how to neutralize those of their rivals. So what exactly has China built, and what does it reveal about the future of warfare above Earth? Here is what we know so far, and the timeline of how this information came to light. The first major international reporting on this weapon began in early February 2026, when news outlets around the world described a breakthrough in high-power microwave technology developed in China. According to multiple sources, Chinese researchers published the study behind this weapon in the peer-reviewed journal High Power Laser and Particle Beams on January 13, 2026, well before the global media began covering it in early February. The sequence, publication first, then public reporting, suggests that the research has been circulating in scientific and defense circles for weeks before it became headline news. The major reports appeared between February 6th and February 10th, 2026, when outlets around the world described the system's capabilities and potential implications. What if a satellite could be taken offline without launching a single missile? No blast, no fragments, just an invisible wave of energy, and the target stops working. That is precisely what this new Chinese system is designed to do. Researchers in China have revealed a compact high-power microwave weapon driver known as the TPG-1000Cs. The system was developed at the Northwest Institute of Nuclear Technology in Xi'an, a research facility linked to China's military science programs. At first glance, it appears relatively modest, about 4 meters in length and weighing close to 5 tons, but its performance is anything but modest. Scientists say the TPG-1000Cs can produce up to 20 gigawatts of electromagnetic energy in sustained output lasting nearly a full minute. That is significantly longer and far more powerful than earlier microwave systems, which could only emit short bursts measured in seconds. Rather than firing missiles, the TPG-1000Cs emits intense bursts of electromagnetic energy. These pulses are designed to overwhelm electronic components inside satellites by inducing sudden surges of voltage and current in circuits, sensors, and communication hardware. These bursts can effectively disable circuits inside satellites or disrupt their communication systems, rendering them temporarily or permanently inoperable. It can be thought of as an invisible electrical shock, powerful enough to shut down a satellite, odds against electronics without physically striking it. This distinction is critical because destroying satellites with conventional missiles creates hazardous debris in orbit, threatening other space assets. Microwave systems disable targets without leaving wreckage behind, reducing the risk of cascading collisions in congested orbital lanes. Unlike older, bulkier designs, the TPG-1000C's EES compact size, roughly 4 meters long and weighing about 5 tons, makes it potentially mountable on a variety of platforms. Chinese researchers say the system could be mounted on trucks, naval vessels, aircraft, ground installations, future space-based platforms. Its mobility and potential for deployment beyond fixed bases expand its strategic utility, turning a laboratory breakthrough into a weapon with real operational possibilities. Satellites are no longer luxury assets. They are essential infrastructure. They support global banking and finance systems, GPS navigation for civilian and military users, communications networks for internet and phone services, weather forecasting and disaster response, defense intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance systems. Because of this dependence, a single tech disruption could ripple through multiple sectors of the global economy. Even a temporary outage could affect shipping, aviation, global markets, and critical infrastructure. That is why nations are investing in space defense and counter-space capabilities alongside traditional defense spending. This development is not happening in isolation. The United States, Russia, and other major space powers have been researching directed energy weapons for decades. The US has studied microwave and other directed energy weapons since at least the 1960s. Russia has explored microwave systems for space and terrestrial use. European countries, including Germany, are now expanding their space defense technologies to strengthen deterrence. The difference now is one of scale and integration. High-power microwave systems that were once too large, heavy, and limited to laboratories are now becoming more compact, capable, and potentially deployable. From a financial perspective, the implications extend beyond purely defense concerns. If this type of technology becomes operational, Insurance premiums for satellite operators could rise sharply, satellite manufacturers might face new regulatory costs, investments in space infrastructure could demand higher risk adjustments, governments may increase defense budgets significantly to protect space assets, companies reliant on satellite networks may seek redundancy or alternatives. Some earlier anti-satellite weapons use kinetic methods, missiles that physically destroy satellites by collision. India, Russia, and China have all tested these systems in the past. These strikes scatter debris and risk creating long-lasting hazards in orbit. Microwave systems like the TPG-1000Cs are part of a broader category called non-kinetic weapons. These include directed energy weapons, laser systems, electronic jammers, high-power microwave emitters. Their purpose is not to destroy, but to disable, ideally without creating physical debris that could threaten other space assets. China's microwave weapon remains in the research stage, and there is no public timeline for formal deployment, but its development points to a much larger shift in how nations think about conflict in space. Future conflicts may not be marked by explosions visible from Earth. Some battles could unfold silently, invisibly, and far above the planet's surface. And as competition in space intensifies, defending satellites may prove just as important as launching them. Power rarely ends in silence. Some disruptions are not accidents. They are signals. A single pulse, a frozen system, a nation holding its breath. The attacker may vanish, but the questions remain. This is not only about the weapon itself, it is about what comes next. Governments, militaries, and economies may have to adapt. The balance of power in space could shift. The financial, strategic, and technological implications are enormous. China's high-power microwave weapon is more than just a breakthrough in technology. It is a bold statement about the future of global competition, space warfare, and the economic stakes that come with orbital dominance. While much attention has focused on missiles, bombs, and traditional forms of military power, China has quietly been developing tools that operate in a much more subtle yet potentially devastating way. These weapons do not rely on explosions, nor do they leave a trail of debris for other nations to navigate. Instead, they harness invisible pulses of electromagnetic energy, capable of disrupting, disabling, or completely shutting down satellites. Among the most important implications of this development is the focus on Elon Musk's Starlink constellation. Originally envisioned as a revolutionary global internet network, Starlink has become more than just a commercial venture. Its thousands of satellites in low Earth orbit now provide critical infrastructure for communication, navigation, financial transactions, and military operations. For countries that rely on these networks, including the United States and its allies, Starlink represents both a strategic asset and a vulnerability. From China's perspective, the Starlink constellation presents a dual challenge. First, it enables rivals to maintain near real-time communication and coordination, providing a decisive advantage in both military and economic scenarios. Second, it highlights a potential gap in China's ability to influence or neutralize assets beyond its borders. The TPG-1000Cs, the high-power microwave system reportedly capable of disrupting low Earth orbit satellites, addresses this challenge by providing a non-kinetic way to interfere with these critical networks. Unlike traditional anti-satellite missiles, which risk creating dangerous debris in orbit, microwave weapons can disable satellites silently and invisibly. This means that a single pulse from the TPG-1000Cs could take a Starlink node offline temporarily or permanently, without leaving a trace of physical destruction. Such a capability is what analysts have called a Starlink killer, a weapon designed specifically to neutralize an emerging space-based infrastructure that has become crucial for global communication and financial stability. The strategic reasoning is clear. In a conflict scenario, disrupting an adversary's satellites could have cascading effects across multiple sectors. Military communications could be interrupted, intelligence data could be lost, and civilian systems reliant on GPS and satellite data could face outages. Even a temporary disruption could impact stock markets, commodity trading, shipping logistics, and global banking systems, which depend on the precision timing provided by satellites. For nations and companies heavily reliant on satellite technology, the stakes could be astronomical. But China's ambitions go beyond Starlink. This weapon signals a broader shift in the nature of global competition in space. Nations are increasingly aware that controlling or defending space assets can provide a strategic edge on Earth. As more countries launch satellites for communication, navigation, and military surveillance, the potential for conflict in orbit grows. The TPG-1000Cs is a warning that future battles may unfold silently, invisibly, and above the surface of the planet, challenging traditional notions of warfare and deterrence. From an economic perspective, the implications are already significant. Satellite operators may need to reassess insurance policies, invest in redundant systems, and build defenses against electromagnetic interference. These precautions come at a cost, which could drive up premiums and affect the economics of space-based services. Governments may also increase budgets for satellite defense, space situational awareness, and emergency response capabilities, further intensifying competition in the sector. Investors and analysts must now account for geopolitical risk when evaluating space infrastructure, a consideration that was largely theoretical just a decade ago. Non-kinetic weapons like the TPG-1000Cs are particularly disruptive because they operate silently. Unlike conventional weapons, which are visible, measurable, and often anticipated, directed energy attacks can occur without warning. This unpredictability increases uncertainty, and uncertainty can be costly, not only for military planners, but also for financial markets that rely on stability, predictability, and uninterrupted communication networks. The TPG-1000Cs also demonstrates a clear evolution in military technology. Where older systems were large, heavy, and confined to laboratories, the new generation is compact, mobile, and potentially deployable on multiple platforms, including trucks, naval vessels, or even future space-based stations. This mobility allows nations to project power in orbit without relying on fixed launch sites, and it introduces new strategic options for both deterrence and attack. For Starlink and similar low Earth orbit constellations, the message is stark. Future-proofing against electromagnetic and directed energy threats is as critical as building satellites capable of providing high-speed internet. Companies may need to invest in hardened electronics, backup satellites, and real-time monitoring systems to detect and mitigate interference. Governments likewise will need to consider active defenses, countermeasures, and international agreements to regulate or deter attacks in space. The financial implications extend further. If a high-power microwave system were used to disrupt a major satellite network, the effects could ripple through global markets. Stock trading, commodities pricing, banking transactions, and global logistics could all experience interruptions. Companies that rely on uninterrupted satellite communication could face immediate operational challenges. Insurance companies may adjust premiums, and investors could demand higher returns to compensate for increased risk. In other words, a single pulse from a weapon like the TPG-1000Cs could have both direct and indirect consequences on the global economy. China's weapon development also serves as a signal to the international community. It demonstrates that space is no longer a passive domain where nations simply launch satellites and hope for stability. Instead, space is now a theater of competition where technological superiority can translate into economic and strategic advantage. Countries that can defend their satellites while neutralizing those of their rivals may gain a decisive edge not only in military scenarios, but also in commerce, finance, and critical infrastructure. The TPG-1000Cs, therefore, is more than a weapon. It is a harbinger of a new era of space-based competition and conflict. It is a reminder that the next frontier of warfare and economic risk exists above us, where battles may be invisible, silent, and potentially devastating to both national security and global markets. In this context, the Starlink constellation becomes emblematic of the stakes involved. Its widespread coverage, rapid deployment, and integration with both civilian and military infrastructure make it a high-value target. For China, the ability to disrupt such a system without causing collateral debris represents a significant leap in strategic capability. For investors, businesses, and governments, it is a warning that dependence on orbital assets carries both technological opportunity and unprecedented risk. In conclusion, the TPG-1000Cs underscores several urgent realities. Space has become a contested and economically critical domain. High-power microwave weapons can neutralize satellites silently, creating new risks for global infrastructure. Starlink and other low-Earth orbit constellations are both strategic assets and potential targets. Governments and companies must rethink defense, insurance, and redundancy strategies to mitigate these invisible threats. The global economy is increasingly intertwined with space infrastructure, meaning disruptions can have far-reaching financial consequences. China's microwave weapon is not just a technological advancement. It is a statement about the future of power, influence, and risk in space. It challenges assumptions about safety, stability, and control in an era where battles may be fought far above our heads, silently, invisibly, and with consequences that could ripple through the entire global economy. If you found this video insightful and want to stay ahead of global economic, technological, and strategic developments, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel Economic Records, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching.